Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. I just wanted to take a second to thank everybody that called in and joined us on the Zoom conferences during the NFL draft. We definitely appreciate all the feedback, all the calls, all the listens, everything else. We had people from London, from France, from Germany, the UK. It was pretty wild. And a lot of these guys, they knew more about the draft and these players than we did. So it was definitely great just, hearing their analysis and some of their thoughts on these players. We figured a lot of you guys, you get to hear from us pretty much nonstop throughout the year. So it was definitely great just hearing from some new fans and just getting some new takes on a lot of these guys. All right, so with that being said, I just wanted to quickly share my thoughts on how Joe Douglas approached his first general manager as Jets GM. And I'm going to start with the major positive because I thought that throughout this draft, he had such a solid understanding of these players, the board, where a lot of these guys would fall, how the draft would shake out as far as needs of other teams and who would be there, who wouldn't. Um, that was the first major positive. The second was that he was able to execute a power move. And when I say power move, I'm talking about you look at the Jets drafts over the last like 10 years. Other than the trade for Sam Darnold, where they moved up from 6 to 3, they gave up the 3 second-round picks, which again some people think was still too much. I don't think that was too much because you don't put a price on a franchise quarterback, but that was still a power move to me. You traded up and you found yourself in position to get your guy who was arguably the number one quarterback of that draft class, at least in the eyes of a lot of scouts. So that was a power move, but that wasn't even on draft day. That was before the draft. So the last 10 years, what was the one example that we can give of a GM executing a power move? I don't think you have one. So you go to this year in round two. To me, that was just such an example of a GM really, truly executing his plan above and beyond. So you have a guy in Denzel Mims who myself and many others wanted the Jets to trade up and go get. They don't trade up, and he's still there at 48. They resisted the urge to take him there. They trade back to 59. They get an extra third round pick. They take that third round pick, trade it to the Patriots, get 2 extra fourths and a six next year. So to me, turning that pick into an extra 3 picks and still getting your guy in Denzel Mims, that's just great work by the GM. It's hard to, say anything other than great work by the GM right there in that second round. So let's start with Becton. At this point, I've convinced myself on Becton. Just a mountain of a dude, 6'7", 365. Um, and after reading a lot of the comments, I'll agree with a lot of the fans out there. I definitely underrated his footwork as far as just being smooth and nimble. Not necessarily quick, I would say, but just again, he's smooth. He doesn't look, clumsy or anything like that or overweight. He plays a lot faster than he looks. Definitely an athletic guy. He's a finisher. So yeah, I think that we all got some. We all had some concerns because of the failed drug tests and the weight issues that we thought were going to be there. That could still be there, but he is staying with his personal trainer, so that's a positive. But yeah, the potential is all there with Becton, so it's hard to complain about that pick. You go to round two. Obviously, I absolutely love the Mims pick. We've heard the comparisons. A mini AJ Green, a mini Brandon Marshall. I think some of the concerns about his drops are a little bit misleading. He had a better drop percentage than Judy and CeeDee Lamb and guys like that. I think some of the concerns about his route tree are also a little bit misleading as well. I think that was more to do with the offense that he played in at Baylor and not necessarily because he can't run those routes. You look at his Senior Bowl, he was dominant there. 6'3", 4.4 speed, great red zone target, great body control in the end zone. I think this guy is going to be a player right away for the Jets. You go to round three, and that's where it gets a little bit interesting. I'm not going to say I dislike any of the players. Ashton Davis, definitely a guy that can contribute right away in the big nickel, big dime, third safety, hard hitter, track speed. I just didn't like the need there. It has nothing to do at all with the player. I didn't really know much about the player at the time when he was drafted because I didn't really look at a whole lot of the safeties. I definitely didn't see them going that route. But this is obviously a guy that Greg Williams sees as a fit for his defense. Hopefully not a replacement for Marcus May long term, but definitely an option there if he plays well this season. So yeah, hard to really dislike the pick. Again, I think it just really came down to need. You look at some of the guys that were still available in rounds 3 through round 6, along the interior offensive line as well as at receiver. Guys like Cushenberry, Biotish, Natani Moody, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Tyler Johnson, Brian Edwards. Prochet, Duvernay. Ravens got both those guys. I just thought there were some options there the Jets could have targeted on offense, but definitely cornerback slash safety, whatever role he's going to be in, as well as Zuninga at pass rusher. Those were obvious needs, so you can't really hate the picks. Zuninga is an interesting guy in that you hear a lot of comparisons to Jordan Jenkins, actually, whether or not he's somebody that might start opposite him or eventually replace him, since Jenkins is only signed on a one-year deal. Is going to be interesting. Solid against the run, good motor type player. Better as a pass rusher than I think people give credit for. Hopefully, does not replicate the Ja'Kai Polite pick as far as Florida Gators go in the third round. Seems like the exact opposite of Ja'Kai Polite in a lot of senses. So I'm excited about that pick. Nothing to dislike there. Hard to dislike the P. Ryan pick. The only thing I didn't like about it is that, again, a guy like McFarland there, a little bit more home run speed, change of pace to Bell. But P. Ryan is an excellent all-around back. I think 40 catches last year in college, which was seventh in college football. A guy that can, run it with a little bit of pop in between the tackles, can definitely catch it out of the backfield, enough speed to take it to the house as well. So it's hard to dislike the pick. I just thought they reached a little bit on that one. The one pick, again, and this one, you guys can't convince me on. It's not necessarily that I dislike the player, but I do think they reached on him. It didn't seem like there were a whole lot of teams that had interest in James Morgan, and for the Jets to take him in the middle of the fourth round over some other guys that were available that could potentially fill needs and contribute right away, I thought that was a mistake. Again, it's not that James Morgan doesn't have some potential. You see the arm strength. He has some mobility inside the pocket. It's not that he, doesn't have potential to be a backup quarterback behind Sam. I just don't know if he's able to back him up this year. And so do you still need to sign a veteran? Probably. Are you going to carry three quarterbacks now? I don't know what the plan is there, but it just seemed like they could have just signed a veteran and, focused this pick on, a receiver or somebody else that would have filled more of a need right away. And then you go to the final pick of the fourth round, Cameron Clark. I thought this was an interesting pick. A guy that has obviously some experience at left tackle, but definitely could be somebody that translates to guard at the next level. And he's an athletic guy. You hear about the tape against Clemson where he's just, finishing guys left and right. You like him as a pass blocker, but he also has some ability as a run blocker as well, in that he finishes, gets his hands on you and drives. But definitely a lot to work with there. Also another guy that was a team captain, as were the last five picks that Joe Douglas made. So you see the emphasis on character and on team leaders, which is important. And then you go to the fifth round, Bryce Hall. Fantastic value there in the fifth round. This was a guy that was talked about in the second and third rounds. A physical corner, can play the run, can blitz, as you see in some of the film. Seems like he's more of a zone corner, not necessarily a speed guy or a guy that you would match up on speed receivers, but he could definitely press you. And he's definitely a solid zone corner, plays the ball pretty well. Somebody that I do think could contribute right away if he is healthy, but he did miss, I believe it was 8 games in 2019 with an ankle injury. So we'll see how he comes to training camp, if he's healthy and ready to go. And then you go to the sixth round, and I'm not going to kill this pick with Braden Mann. I know the initial reaction wasn't great, taking a punter, but supposedly this guy is the best punter in all of college. Another guy that was a team captain, as we keep hearing about, can punt the crap out of the ball. Again, this was just another pick that I would have preferred a veteran. I didn't think Lachlan Edwards was terrible. I prefer not having to worry about punting the ball as much as we did last season to begin with. But we know that special teams obviously can impact games. At times, you're going to need a good punter. So hopefully this guy's the answer for the next 5 to 10 years. High motor kind of guy for a punter, which is nice to see. Somebody that likes to tackle a little bit too. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Not crazy about the pick, but I'm not going to kill it either. So it's going to be interesting. Overall, again, I like the draft. I thought they found some solid value in the second and fifth rounds. I just wish they would have addressed some needs at wide receiver, maybe taken an extra 1 or even 2. But again, you go to the undrafted kids, and I guess that's where Joe Douglas is maybe hoping to make up for it a little bit. They signed 2 guys that are very intriguing in Lawrence Cager, big physical dude, 6'5", 4.65 speed, great in the red zone, great body control, good hands, converted tight end, I believe. And then you have the other kid, George Campbell out of West Virginia, 6'4", sub 4.4 speed. I believe at the combine, most of his numbers were like top 10, top 12. in pretty much all the drills. So, you're bringing in big guys that have ridiculous speed. We heard Joe Douglas and Adam Gase talking throughout the year and throughout the offseason. Speed creates pressure, pressure creates cracks, all that stuff. So you see what they're trying to do here, guys like that. With Perriman, it's just a shame we lost Robbie, but I'm not going to dwell on that. Hopefully they're able to replace him with some of these kids. A couple other undrafted free agents, Lamar Jackson, physical corner, another guy that can blitz, pretty solid cover skills, physical dude. I think he's somebody that could be a practice squad candidate right away. And then you also look at another guy in Bryce Huff, a pretty good burst and bend off the edge, high motor player, another practice squad candidate, I think, right away. Possibly even a guy that can make the roster, and compete with Frankie Louvu or somebody like that for a depth spot or, special teams. But it's going to be interesting, to see how these guys come in and compete, what their roles are, how they adapt to, some new systems, lack of training camp time, if that's going to affect how these kids are able to get acclimated right away. But yeah, once again, just want to thank everybody for tuning in, for all the feedback. We definitely appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys very soon. Go Jets.